It says you'll be assessed on the quality of your written communication. That is worth how many marks? 2. Excellent. So then the maths is worth whatever is left. So it's 6 marks if you look down the bottom of the page. So that means it's 4 for the maths, 2 for your QWC. I went through it what I think is the most obvious way of doing it, but I was actually very pleased to see a lot of people doing it a much quicker way. Okay, so I'll go through the question very quickly. It says, Tansy opened a regular savings account. Interest is only payable on the 31st of December each year. Tansy paid £20 into her account on the first day of every month, starting on the 1st of January. On the 31st of December 2012, interest of 1.4% of the total amount of money that Tansy saved during 2012 was added to her account. Calculate how much money she had in her account on the 15th of April 2013. Okay, so this is the way I did it initially. I actually wrote out 2012 and I wrote out all the months there and just kept on adding 20 quid every time until I got to December, and then because at the end of December I get paid this 1.4% interest, I wrote 1.4% of 240, which is the amount that she had in her bank account there. And to do that, the quick way is to change this percentage sign to what it actually means, which it means out of 100. Those two things there are identical. Okay? And then to find a percentage of an amount, you just multiply it by what that amount is. So that of has just changed to times. Okay? So 1.4 over 100 times by 240 comes to very, very, very little interest. It's only £3.36. So then I've written underneath it, interest comes to £243.36. And I've just carried on adding £20. And I just reread the question. It said on the first day of every month. So by the 15th of April, she will have actually paid in April's money as well. So it came to a total of £323.36. The quicker way around it was to notice there are 12 months in a year. So you could have done 12 times by 20, and that equals £240. It's obviously a much quicker way than writing out all of this information here, and it will save you a lot of time. If you didn't spot that, though, this will still get you the marks, and that's what's important, actually being able to access and get those marks. Okay, so 240, then working out the interest, and then I think, Lloyd, you did it this way as well, didn't you? Did you do 4 times 20 here? Yeah. So 4 times the £20 here gives a total of the 80 quid. So then if you add the 80 quid, the 240 quid, and the interest, it will come to being that same amount that I had by here anyway. Okay? In terms of, did I get 6 out of 6? What do you think? No, why not?
There's no.
Excellent. There's no description going on. I need to give it some description. It doesn't need to take ages for me to do that, okay? All I need to do is say what I'm doing by here. So I might just put like an arrow like that and say, I am adding £20. And it's important, if it's £20, that you use the pound sign. If it's kilograms, it's important you put kilograms after it. I'm adding £20 every month. Here, what was this? And Lloyd summed it up really well. He just said interest. Okay, maybe if I wanted to make it look really, really, really fancy, I'd say something like calculating interest. But for me, interest would do the job anyway. Okay, and then I think that final line that I've written is fine to say £323.36 by the 15th of April 2013. It's not the only way to do it the way I did it. Like I said, I quite liked it when I saw people doing this and this and this separately. I thought that was very clever. Okay? So quick check, is there anyone else who's got a paper? Okay then, coming over the page to question 6. Okay, now I would quite like to do a little bit of work on this type of question after we finish going through the paper. This question is called something called loci, which means you're going to be needing to use a compass for this, okay? So hopefully on your table you've got one. I think we've got some spares. So just running to grab a few of them now. Okay, so before I start doing it, I'll just talk through what it's asking me to do. It says a region is found within the triangle ABC using the following criteria. The points of the region are nearer to B than C and greater than 4 centimetres from A. Shade this region inside the triangle. And the easiest one to do is actually the second one. It just says greater than 4 centimetres from A. So what you do is you get your compass, and when you're setting up your compass, you must get the point of your pencil with the spike on your compass in the same place. If you don't do that, you'll find it very, very hard to do, to draw any circles at all. The next thing I do is I open my compass up to 4 centimetres. So I go and put the sharp bit on 4, and 0 has got to be where the pencil is. Okay? Now, to be 4 centimetres away from A, it means I must find A. So what I tend to do is just go and put a little circle on A to know that's where my compass has got to go. So I put the sharp bit there, and I draw an arc. Now, I can't actually do this the way I normally do it. I normally move the paper. I find it very hard actually drawing a full circle, holding it up at the top here. I find that I tend to slip. So what I tend to do is hold by here and actually pull the paper around. If you're unsure on that, ask me at some point today. I'll show you how I do it, but I've shown Lloyd. It only needs to go across the circle. It only needs to go across the triangle because it said within the triangle, but it wouldn't be wrong if you did draw a full circle. That wouldn't make it incorrect, okay? Now, on that line, all the points are exactly 4 centimetres away from A. Everywhere on that line is exactly 4 centimetres away from A. The fact that I want it to be greater than 4 centimetres away from A is telling me it's got to be everything this side of the line, okay? But before I go and start shading all of that in, I need to go back and fit the other criteria. It says nearer to B than to C. So if I look where B is up by here, and then C is all the way down by here, and hopefully we can get all that onto one bit. Okay, so in terms of where I'd stop to be nearer to B than C, well, all these points here are clearly closer to B. Closer to B, closer to B, closer to B, but then all of a sudden they're all closer to C. So where would have been a good place to stop? About here. What's special about here, roughly? It's the middle. So at the middle, the points to B and the points to C are absolutely identical. So what we need to do is chop this exactly in half. Now, it would be wrong to go and get my ruler, measure it, and say that's 12.7, so it needs to be 6.35. I can't draw that accurately. You actually use your compass to do this. And the trick you use your compass is to open it to just more than halfway. So have a look at what you think is halfway and open it to what you think is definitely more than halfway. So I think that is just about right for me. And you will draw a semicircle from that point on C all the way to the edge of the paper like that. Okay, so I won't do the next bit yet. I'll wait for a second. So at C, just more than halfway. Not loads more, just more. Now if it's anything like me, you will probably slip with the compass, which is why I tend to hold it right by the spike, and I try and move the paper instead, but it's knocking the camera for me. Okay? Now the next bit, which is really, really, really important. You must keep your compass at this exact same width. If you change the width of it, it won't work what we've just done. You now turn your paper around and you put the point on B instead, and hopefully they will cross. If they don't cross, you didn't open your compass to more than halfway. Okay? So holding the compass there, I just move the paper, and I'm looking for that to have crossed 2 times. If it crosses 2 times, it's done what I need it to do. So I kept the compass at exactly the same width from C. I turn my paper around, put the compass on B, and then just drew another arc. Okay, but it's got to be the same distance as it was from C. If you move it, it won't work. Okay, so put your point on C again. Put your point on C. Make sure that's the same distance. Yeah? Now go and put the point on B instead. And draw an arc. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, you need to get a ruler or something that will draw straight lines, and it must go through those 2 points there and there. And you draw a straight line all the way through the triangle. Okay, now everything on this line has an identical distance to B and to C. Everywhere on that line. If I measure the distance from there, it would be the same distance to B and to C. Okay? I'm asked to get the points nearer to B than to C. So to get the points nearer to B, B's up by here, I'm looking this side of the line, because everything this side of the line would be closer to C. So the points that are further than 4 centimetres away from A and nearer to B would be everything in this section here of the triangle. Okay? And it's really important that you shade that in because it says shade this region. Okay? So I always go all the way up to the edge of the triangle and then shade that bit there. But I dare say some of you are better at shading than I am. So the marks come in. You get 1 for drawing this 4 centimetre arc here, this 4 centimetre circle. That got you 1. You get 1 for marking the exact middle between B and C, and then you get 1 for shading the correct area. Okay? That's something called loci. I wouldn't mind doing a few more bits of loci. We've got all the compasses out and stuff. Okay? Okay, over the page, if you could spot this dotted line, it made your life really, really, really easy. If you didn't, you would have found this question very, very hard. This quadrilateral is just 2 right-angled triangles stuck together. You must learn this formula here. The area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Okay? So base times height finds a rectangle, but a triangle, and certainly this triangle, is a rectangle cut in half. That's why I've halved the whole thing. Okay? Now, when we're looking at height, we're always looking for a right angle. So, for instance, if I asked Miles, if I asked you to come up to the board and we measured how tall you were, what would you do when you stood up against the board?
Standing your back to it.
Yeah, standing up nice and straight. You wouldn't come up and slouch up against the wall and say, "Oh, Miles, you're 3'7", would we? Stand up nice and straight, making a right angle with the floor. Okay? So, when we're looking for the base, for B, it's actually very easy to see the base because it's already at the bottom. The height must be that bit there. So, for triangle B, you want to do the base, 10.4, multiplied by 7.8, and then we want to halve that answer. Okay? And that should come to 40.56 centimetres squared. You right?
Yeah, is this spare ruler?
Spare ruler? Yeah, I can get one. Joe? And Alice, why not? Anyone else?
Me, sir.
Do you really need more one? There's one I'm using, so I can't lend you that one. I'm sure it's always okay. Now for triangle A, okay guys, can I have your attention for a second please? For triangle A, this top one here, it's maybe not that obvious to spot the base. You may look at that and say that's the base, but we're always looking for the height being where the right angle is. And if I rotate the paper around like that, I think it's maybe a bit easier to see what the base and the height is. The base is going to be this, and the height is going to be that. So whenever we're talking about base and height, they'll always join each other at a right angle. Okay? So for triangle A, I should do 12 times by 5, or 5 times by 12, it doesn't matter which way around that goes into your calculator, divided by 2, and that will give you the answer 30 centimetres squared. Am I all done? Have I got the full 5 marks? No? What do I need to do to finish? Nothing? Add them, fantastic, well done Destiny. We need to just add these two numbers together. So 30, add 40.56. Do I need to write that formula down? Do I need to show what I'm doing? You don't need to, but it's always a good idea to just show what you did. So say you accidentally put it into your calculator wrong, you could potentially still get a mark here. Okay? And that should come to 70.56 centimetres squared. Okay? I know, it's a big 5 marks, isn't it? It's a big 5 marks, that one. Do you not think?
think that would be like 2 marks, and multiply would be like 5 marks.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying 5 marks, and that it's not a huge amount of work, is it?
Oh, okay, then it's a lot for 5 marks.
No. Other way around. I'm agreeing with you. Okay, for the next one, go on to a clean page so it doesn't sort of show you what to do straight away. Okay, now for me, we're starting to get to the trickier type of questions now. This is a grade B question on something called similar shapes. Okay, so it's important that you write down similar shapes. How did I know they were similar shapes? It told me in the question. And because they sort of look like each other as well. Okay? Now, as soon as I see the word similar, I'm thinking of a formula called small times by scale factor equals the big one or the large one. Okay? Scale factor is how many times I make the shape bigger. Now, with the measurements they've given me, I can work out what the scale factor is, providing I have what is called the corresponding side on each triangle. So is there a side on this triangle where I know it on the big one and the small one?
Yeah.
Excellent. On the right, yeah, 3.6 and 2. So I know both of those. So what I'm going to do, this is clearly the smaller one, and this is the bigger one. The small, so 2 centimetres, times by the scale factor, is equal to 1, that is the big one. So there's equal to 3.6. So how can I work out what the scale factor is? Fantastic. That times by 2, we're going to take over to the other side, and it will become divide by 2. So 3.6 divided by 2 is equal to 1.8. What does that really mean, though? Well, it means to get from the small one to the big one, I times it by 1.8. I'm not happy with the way I've written that, let me write it better. I times it by 1.8. And then to get the big one over to the small one, what do you think I do there? Excellent, well done. I divide by 1.8. Okay? So to work out x, I need to do 1.5 times by 1.8. And that goes straight into the calculator. I don't know that off the top of my head. Anyone help me out? Just like I said, I can't do it in my head. 2.7. So x is equal to 2.7 centimetres. And how can I work out y?
Divided by 1.
Fantastic. 4.5, this one here, divided by 1.8. Which equals 2.5, so y is 2.5 centimetres. All good?
Very, very quickly, can the following people, rather disturbing now,